We wanted to take some time and cover a pretty recent update to a case we previously covered here at Polygraph, the Colonial Parkway Murders. For a quick refresher, we've linked the video in the description if you had yet to tune in. The Colonial Parkway Murders, or Lovers Lanes Murders, as they're sometimes referred to, were a series of double homicides in and around the Colonial Parkway near Williamsburg, Virginia. The first set of murders were that of Kathy Thomas and Becky Andowski in October of 1986. They were found murdered in their vehicle, which was pushed down an embankment, and an attempt to ignite the vehicle was made, but unsuccessful due to diesel fuel being used. Almost a year later, in September of 1987, a vehicle belonging to David Lee Knobling was located at the Ragged Island Wildlife Refuge, but there was no sign of Knobling. Searches ensued, and within a week the body of Knobling was discovered, washed along the shore by the tide, downriver from the refuge. Not far from Knobling was the deceased body of 14-year-old Robin Edwards, who had been reported missing not long after the discovery of Knobling's vehicle. Following the separate double homicides, in April of 1988, a vehicle belonging to 20-year-old Keith Call was located at the York River Overlook, empty with belongings inside. The night prior, Keith had been on his first date with 18-year-old Cassandra Haley. It is believed that after leaving a party, the two stopped at the Overlook. The pair have never been located, and were last seen around 1:30 a.m. leaving a party in Newport News, Virginia. Police believe foul play was involved, and have tied this case to the others due to geolocation and similarities. The final case tied to the Colonial Parkway murders is that of Anna Marie Phelps and Daniel Lauer, who went missing while driving down Route 64 in Virginia. The pair were moving Daniel from his house near Richmond to his brother's house in Virginia Beach. Anna Marie was the girlfriend of Daniel's brother. Daniel's gold 1972 Chevy Nova was located at a rest stop off Route 64 with the keys in the ignition and all their belongings. They were not with the vehicle. 6 weeks passed by before hunters came across the remains of the pair in the woods, not far off Route 64. It is presumed that the pair were approached and forced to follow directions to the spot where they were murdered, and their car was driven back and parked haphazardly on the on-ramp, leaving the rest area, in the opposite direction of where they were headed. There have been few leads or suspects in the case, though police and the FBI have still been searching for answers since the first murder in 1986. It isn't until now that we have an update to at least one of the double homicides, that of David Knobling and Robin Edwards, as well as one other crime not directly related to the Colonial Parkway murders. In 2017, a delivery driver noticed an open door on a house in Northern Neck, Virginia, and walked to the entrance. Upon discovery of a deceased person, they phoned the police and they arrived to find the corpse. Police believe the remains belonged to the homeowner, one Alan Wade Wilmer, but due to the state of the body, needed to verify it with DNA evidence. The result was positive, and they were able to confirm the deceased's identity. It would appear after autopsy and testing that the 63-year-old died of hardening of the arteries, essentially a buildup of plaque in the bloodstream, something that most likely plagued the individual for a while. Unknown to investigators at the time, this DNA test would become crucial evidence to the Colonial Parkway investigation. When the murders along the Parkway first took place, Alan Wade Wilmer was investigated as a person of interest, along with his brother. They were each questioned, and due to passing a polygraph, were subsequently released and not investigated further. When the case was reopened just a few years ago, investigators sought the DNA sample from 2017 that belonged to Wilmer. Wilmer was not a federal criminal, and thus never had his DNA on file. Due to forensic testing in the Knobling and Edwards case a few years ago, they were able to determine that the individual responsible for their murders also killed a woman in Northampton, 2 years after. They had just never been able to link the DNA in both these cases to a suspect. Thankfully, in part to the diligence and footwork by cold case detectives assigned to reopen the Parkway case, they were able to dig into Wilmer's past and secure his DNA on file to make the identification. Police are still probing the other cases that are part of the Colonial Parkway murders, but have not made any further comments in regard to those. It is understood that there is little to no DNA evidence in the other cases, leaving the potential to link Wilmer to these other crimes small, but not impossible. With the understanding of Wilmer's ties to the particular case of Edwards and Knobling, police had originally sought to question him in the murders along the Parkway, specifically that of Keith Call and Cassandra Haley in 1988. Keith Call and Cassandra Haley's remains have never been found, but Keith's car was located and searched after the disappearance. Police always suspected foul play, and during the initial investigation, had learned of a local fisherman in the area who had approached at least one other vehicle along the Parkway in a Lover's Lane area. These reports of a local fisherman approaching parked cars was something of interest to detectives, as they had developed the idea of a fisherman type of suspect in the first murders of Kathy Thomas and Becky Andowski. At the scene of their crime, there was fishing cord, a curved sharp knife, and additionally diesel fuel that was used in the attempt to set the vehicle ablaze. which is common for fishing boats to use. So naturally, when witnesses came forward to say they were approached by a fisherman, police wanted to talk to this man. The FBI surveilled the unknown male and spotted him cleaning his pickup, as well as spray painting it just 4 days after the Colin Haley crimes. Police got a search warrant for Wilmer's residence and found handcuffs, porn, and a firearm. When the FBI administered the polygraph, however, the man passed. It's always important to note that in today's world, we know polygraphs are not admissible in most courts, and the reliance of such testing is spotty at best. In the end, however, detectives stopped their investigation into Wilmer. This news confirms Wilmer's link to at least one of the cases that compiles the Parkway murders, and points in his direction to 2 others. Police have described Wilmer as very much a loner, generally keeping to himself. He worked as a fisherman for most of his life, working and living on his own boat, the Denny Wade, mostly fishing for clams and oysters. He owned several cars, but primarily a distinctive 1966 Dodge Fargo pickup with a license plate showing EM-RAW. The truck often carried a large metal toolbox and clamming equipment. From there, he went on to start his own tree cutting service, Better Trees Service. Wilmer was an avid hunter and excelled at archery. All this info is being provided in the hopes that some other witnesses might be able to link Wilmer into the other cases or other cold cases not directly linked to the Colonial Parkway murders. This is the first update we've covered here at Polygraph, and it's incredible that it happened just 6 months after our very own deep dive. We'll continue to monitor and hope that one day all these cases will be solved, even if it's too late for justice to be served. If you have any info regarding Wilmer or the Colonial Parkway murders, please dial 1-800-CALL-FBI to submit a tip, or online at tips.fbi.gov. Until then, Polygraph investigates.